What's up, guys? This is Dino here, and today I have a very special guest with me here. I'm sure you know him. He's one of the best What If YouTubers in the Pokemon series, and it is everyone's favorite Ronnie Charizard. Hey man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me on.
Hey man, always a pleasure. So I just had a few questions because, of course, I started this channel, and you were a huge inspiration for this. So I just wanted to ask you that what inspired you to start your own channel?
Well, that's actually that I wouldn't say it's an interesting story. It's kind of a lengthy one though. But yeah, I'll get into it. So, at the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic happened and everything got shut down, it was uh it was a new world for a lot of people out there. It didn't matter if you were in America, it didn't matter if you were in India, it didn't really
Yeah,
matter where you were, but it was just a new world. And throughout a lot of my life, I was a very avid player of card games, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, so on and so forth. Going to actual in-person live events, uh, playing with my friends, playing with a lot of different people. Now I
yeah,
found myself with a bunch of free time because the world was on lockdown, and I had nothing to do. I had work, but then I had all this spare time, and you couldn't really go out, you couldn't really do anything. So it got to the point to where I was like, well, what could I really do with my time? And I had been sitting on the idea of doing stories for a couple of years, about 5 or 6 years, but I just it always got pushed to the back of everything else because of life and because of my other hobbies and stuff like that. Then the pandemic happened, and I kind of said, okay, well, why don't we take a crack at this? Let's see if people actually want to hear what I have to talk about. And I mean, there was also the whole aspect of, seeing if I could get the channel monetized, seeing if I could actually make money of it, stuff like that. All the basic stuff that people want to do when they get on YouTube. But overall, it was really just a venture to try and see what the next stage would be for me.
oh, yeah, I agree. Like the pandemic, although it was a really horrible event, it also had some side effects, positive side effects for a lot of us. So before you started your channel, did you actually watch other what ifs related to Pokemon or any other series?
Um, well, I actually did. So even though I didn't actually, I had a small channel with my Yu-Gi-Oh team when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, and whenever we got together, we would do deck profiles and stuff like that. It never really took off. We had it for like 8 or 9 years, but we never really promoted it. We never took it to the level that I take it with this channel now. Uh, so when uh, when we were doing that, I also had a lot of other channels that I watched, and a lot of the channels that I watched were like Moscow X, Smush Stick, Solid Say, and stuff like that. But
Uh,
all those, if you think about it, are all Dragon Ball what ifs. They
yeah,
very,
yeah.
very rarely do anything else outside of that content because that's basically that's their golden goose, so to speak. If everybody in the
Uh,
world knows Dragon Ball and what it is, and then I actually spent a good 6 months before I had even started making videos, deciding on the topic. What could I talk about that nobody else is talking about? And then one day, I was just like, you know what? Let me see if there's any Pokemon what ifs out there because I like watching what ifs. And when I started
uh,
searching, I didn't really see a whole lot of them. I saw some old ones from like Proto Mario, but they were like 4 or 5 years old at that time, you know?
yeah.
And I didn't really see Pokemon per se. And that's when I was like, you know what? I think this is it. I think this is the market that I've been looking to break into because unfortunately, the one thing about YouTube is certain markets are so oversaturated. It's hard to get attention in them, and not necessarily I wanted an easy ride, but I wanted to be smart about it, and I wanted to put myself into into a subject that I knew that I could get traction in, so that way I can
Yeah.
make general strides, you know. And then
Yeah.
when I started trying to find Pokemon What Ifs, there was just really wasn't any on the outside of the old ones from Proto Mario, and then the couple that End of the Unknown had done at that time, because
Yeah.
he was the one who
On
started the
time
What If
series.
Ash woke on time.
Yeah.
So, and then it just went on from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like you said, there are just a lot of Dragon Ball what ifs. So even if you picked a unique topic related to that franchise, chances are it won't show up on a lot of people's feed, right? Because there are just a lot of them. Like you said, there's Masco X, Saladin, Smugstick, and Dex Comics also. So just a whole
Yeah,
ton of Dragon Ball what if out there.
yeah,
So, you started off with, if I'm not mistaken, you started off with What If Ash was born in Unova, right?
yeah. I did.
So yeah, so why did you pick Unova? Was it because the Black and White series was not the best series in the franchise, and you wanted to add your own elements into the story, or was it any other reason?
That was part of it. So the first things first is there's a lot of people that don't like the black and white anime, so to speak. They think it could
Yeah,
have been done better, and I'll admit that the anime, it had its low points and it had its high points. Overall, I mean, just as a fan of the franchise, I just like the content because it's just something else for me to watch. But the other question that I always had a burning question is, well, what if Ash was also in the games? And I understand, you know, Red and most of the series protagonists for each game is supposed to be like that version of Ash in that generation, kinda.
yeah,
Um, but the main thing was is you never actually saw Ash in the games. So if you notice, there's a lot of game elements in that particular What If that don't particularly uh, they don't go hand in hand with the actual anime itself.
yeah,
So I just went along the lines of, well, Unova, people were unhappy with how the anime went, and I one thing that I didn't like about the black and white games when they first came out, but I've actually come to appreciate it as I've gotten older, is I didn't like the fact that they just nuked the original decks and started over fresh. And I
mm,
think that it was actually done a lot better in black and white too. I love playing those games over and over again. Um, but I didn't when I first started playing the games, I didn't really like the fact that you couldn't get anything until the post game, any of the old stuff.
mm,
So that was one of the major things. So yeah, that's basically it. So I figured if people are so unhappy with Unova, why don't I just start there? And I know it's kind of a weird spot to start because you had four other generations to choose from, and then you had
mm.
three other generations after that. But I just felt like it's a soft reboot. They didn't like how it was executed, and let me see what I can do as far as storytelling and stuff like that. And it was kind of my experimental series because I had no idea what I was doing at the time. So,
Yeah.
and it just the rest went on from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the thing you mentioned that because they nuked the decks, that was a reason that a lot of people didn't like the black and white games. And I think that's a lot of reason why people don't like the Gen 8 games, the Sword and Shield games, because they cut the because they cut the national decks in half, right? And a lot of Pokemon don't exist in this game. So I think that's why they don't like this because of the nostalgia effect mostly.
Yeah, Pokemon's a big thing when it comes to nostalgia because the franchise
Mm,
is coming up on 25 years. You're really playing a lot to the older audience and the nostalgia. I will say though, I'm not as upset with the Shield and Sword decks as I am with the Black and White decks. Just for the simple fact is you had the DLCs that introduced a lot of the newer Pokemon, and from a
yeah,
business standpoint, I could understand why they didn't want to do that because now they're in a completely new territory. They have the base games, and now they could remotely give you content to where before they didn't have to, or they couldn't give you remote content. It all had to be, you know, you buy the game, you have to go to the event to get the thing, or maybe you
yeah,
download the one Pokemon. But now they can just give you, they can give you a whole downloadable section to a game, and they can just flood it. So I understand why they didn't do it. And don't get me wrong, I there are some things that I missed about them, but overall I was okay with it. So
Yeah, of course. So going back to your story, of course you have the What If Ash was born in Unova series. That's like absolutely one of my favorite. But then you also have What If Ash was born in Kalos, right? So is
yes.
there any difference between between the Ashes that appear in each of the series, or they are just the same characters, just born in different regions?
Um. Well, so the what's the best way to put this so I don't give away any spoilers for things that may be coming up? So you can say that the region themselves is what makes them different.
Hmm.
So you could take Unova for instance. Unova isn't a region that had any type of gimmick like Mega Evolution that Kalos
Yeah.
has. And not only that, but that also played a huge role in the placement of where I put Ash inside of Kalos.
Hmm.
When it came to Unova, I was basically just following the layout of the games, and that was the easiest, but it also made the most sense. I followed basically the layout of the Black and White 2 games. But when it came to Kalos, I didn't put Ash at the beginning of the region. I put him in Ambrit Town, and
Yeah.
that was a big thing because that was the town, to me anyway, that was farthest away from Mega Evolution. So he may have had contact with it. He may not have had contact with it. And not only that,
Hmm.
but it also gives what's the it's kind of like a it's kind of like one of those small towns where you don't really get a lot of things going on. You have the fossil
Yeah.
museum, but that's really it. That's the only attraction, you know?
Hmm.
So, and I really wanted to put Ash in a different setting, kind of like a minor setting, so to speak. And when I picked Ambrit Town, there was just so many things I could do with that when it came to the fossils and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but I would say overall that I mean, they're still a 10-year-old kid, but
Hmm.
they're because of the because of the regions and their overall what's going on in them. It's different. It's going to be different because you got to remember Ash idolizes Lysander in the Kalos What If to where
Yeah.
he he knows of Team Plasma in the Unova What If, and he has a deep disdain for just Team Plasma in the Unova What If. So that right
Hmm.
there is also going to play a huge factor on how both of those end.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Uh, I like how you put the struggle element in a lot of this. Like, for example, like personally, really don't know how to write Mega Evolution into the story. So most of the times I do it, I'm like, yeah, he got the Mega Stone. The Pokemon were pushed to the limits and they had to Mega Evolve. But what you did with the Mega Evolution was that you used it as a plot point. Like in the Kalos What If, you had, I think it was with the battle against Corina, right? When you where you made the point that just mega evolving your Pokemon is not the answer to everything, right? You have to grow with them, you have to make them stronger, and mega evolution is just the added effect of you going through the training. It is not the go end all of all the things. And in the champion Ash What If, I really liked how you used Brock as a mentor figure, because that was what was supposed to happen originally, but they didn't really do it. They kind of forgot about Brock being Ash's coach and providing him with guidance until the Sinnoh region, right?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of my choices when it comes down to that are what's the best way to put it? It's a lot of my choices when I do things like that. It comes from the perspective of a 10-year-old kid who watched the anime and wanted to see certain things, but then it also comes from the adult mind of somebody who wants to write a good story.
Yeah.
So I do my best to blend the two as much as possible when it comes to those. And I but the thing about Mega Evolution is if you look at the X and Y anime, that what you said about the Mega Evolution really wasn't my idea. That was kind of hinted at early on with the struggle of Ash trying to get Ash Greninja with Greninja. You know,
Yeah.
they both had to train together because this form. The reason why this form it's a super powerful form, but its main weakness is it doesn't have a conduit for its Mega Evolution like other Mega Evolutions. And what I mean by that is other Mega Evolutions have a stone that allows them to regulate the energy that's flowing between the two, the trainer and the Pokemon, to where
Yeah.
Ash and Greninja, they just have the bond. So if they can't hold the bond, and if one of them gives out, that's it. It's done. To where other Mega Evolutions, they can last longer in battle because their endurance is better because they have that item to help. It's kind of like a fuse or a transistor that allow electricity to flow. It's the same process. Ash and Greninja don't have that, so that's why it's kind of like a glass cannon. You have to get the job done now, or it's not going to happen. You know, and it's very apparent in the final battle with Mega Charizard X how that
Yeah.
happens. So
Yeah, I really like that concept. Like there is always a sense of emergency that you have to do it, and you have to do it like really quick, or else it will just fade away.
yeah, so
Yeah. Another one of your stories that I really liked was the Jesse and James What If, where the challenge for the Hoenn James. So in that story, I really liked how you introduced Butch and Cassidy as the villains of the story, and there was also Domino. So what made you do the Team Rocket story? Did you plan it beforehand, and why particularly in the Hoenn region?
um when I started doing the What If Ash won the Indigo League is actually
Hmm.
where that started. I started rewatching a lot of the old animes that I hadn't seen in years, which include Indigo, Kanto, or Johto, Orange Island, stuff like that.
Yeah,
And the Hoenn ones because I was just like, okay, well, how far am I going to take this, and what direction am I going to take this? And then one of the things that came very apparent to me was Gen 3 was in itself a soft reboot for most of the characters. Ash wanted to start all over, which he kind of did start over in Johto, but he really didn't. He went in with all of his Kanto Pokemon and then
yeah,
gradually changed them out with Johto Pokemon. But in Hoenn, he started over. He had only Pikachu. And it was the same for Jesse and James, kind of. Jesse started taking on the contests. So, and that's really what gave me the idea. I was like, okay, well, they expanded on Jessie taking the contest and her becoming her own trainer and really fleshing out her character. What if we did that with both Jesse and James? And
mm,
Hoenn was the perfect place to do it because right in the first episode, you could see Jesse pondering what they're going to do, why they're going to do it. You know, why do they keep chasing Pikachu and they want something different? And that right there just struck me. So that's where that came from.
oh, all right. Yeah, yeah, that was a really cool move because there was just a flux of lot of different villainous teams. Of course, there was Butch and Cassidy, and on the other hand, there were the regional teams with Team Magma and Team Aqua. So, adding Jesse and James as protagonists into the mix was really interesting for sure. Just a couple of ones before I let you go. Will there be a story with a different character from another franchise in future?
Uh, Kind of like how I did with the Jesse and James or the Jesse and James What If.
No, no, like they're from Pokemon, right? From a different franchise.
Oh, you're talking like maybe a Naruto or a Dragon Ball Z or something like that.
Yeah.
I've given it thought, but it's not something I'm committed to right now. I really want to focus just on growing the channel with the content that I have.
Mm,
Um, I if in all honesty, if I were to break out into another franchise, it would probably be Yu-Gi-Oh because that is another franchise that I feel like is underutilized for the topics that I cover.
yeah.
So,
And what are your thoughts on being some sort of pioneer for the Pokemon What Ifs? Because, like, let's be honest, right? Like you said, before you started, there was, of course, Proto Mario. He had that What If Red joined Team Rocket, but that was really old. And I don't think he continued that series after that. But once you started the What If Us Was Born in New Nova series, there was just influx of members on Discord, and then all of a sudden, like everybody, including me, everybody is starting doing this Pokemon What If. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I wouldn't. I mean, I guess you could say I'm somewhat of a pioneer. I will say that obviously, Enter the Unknown. They did a really great job with the What If Ash woke up on time, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And all I really did was just grab the ball and continue to run with it. I know Zonalith was doing his What If I Rewrote the Black and White anime, and
Oh
those
yeah.
started right around the same time I started. So I can't really say that I was the only one that pioneered it. I will say that I can say that I was one of the first few here, but I don't think the whole credit goes to me. Don't get me wrong, it does feel good to be able to contribute to something from the beginning.
Hmm.
But I definitely don't think that I take all the credit for it. I think those other two individuals specifically, and even Proto Mario, they did do some legwork up front to get the ball rolling. So it
Hmm.
was a team effort without it really being a team effort, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, of course, I understand. Really good answer. Any final message for all the Ronin Charizard fans listening to this?
Um, you know, this is my first actual interview that I've ever done with anybody, and I was actually surprised when you reached out to me because I didn't, it really hadn't crossed my mind about wanting to do any type of interview with anybody else. But like I said in my what if or in my announcement that I'm gonna be looking to try and do some content with other creators. Uh, this whole year has been a whole learning experience for me because from the beginning I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't
Hmm.
know I didn't know what a Discord server was. I'd never used Discord before. I'd never used Zoom before this year. I had like when it came to basic caveman, that was me. I ran everything off my phone. I ran all my other businesses off my phone. I didn't really use anything that I didn't really need to. Uh, but you guys have been on the journey with me, watching me grow, and I believe it. You can see it in a lot of my content, whether it comes down
Hmm.
to the audio recording, the editing style, everything getting better. Plus, Ultraman played a huge part in that. He actually reached out to me first. Uh, he was he was very very welcoming to helping somebody who had no experience in this type of format. He's really showed me a lot over the last it's been 6-7 months since we started talking, and he's got a lot of great he's got a lot of great insight, and
Hmm.
I really appreciate everything that he did because like he didn't have to do it, and he really put his name out on the line to help me get my channel growing. And from the moment that we started talking, I made it very clear that I had no idea what I was doing. I was basically fumbling around in the dark, just trying to find my way. And he's like, "Don't worry, bro. I got you. As long as you're willing to learn, we can ride this train together." And I really appreciate that. And I really hope that at some point I'll be able to do the same thing he did for me to help some other people out, because I don't think that's something that is done a lot here on this platform when it comes to YouTube. You don't see a lot of people trying to bring people with them. It's more along the lines of let me carve out my slice of pie, and
Hmm.
this is my slice and nobody else can take a part of it. Instead of, well, you can keep your same slice, but let's just make the pie bigger so everybody can have an equal share, you know?
Yeah, beautifully said, my man. Thank you for doing this once again, and really sorry for the delay. I'm sure that if we do this some later time, I will be on time.
Oh,
Thank you
no, no,
for
no, no.
doing this. Yeah,
No problem at
yeah.
all. I was actually writing my next part for the What If Champion Ash Challenge Indigo or Challenge Johto while I was waiting on you. So I got
Oh,
I got about 3/4 of the script done. So it's going to be a
That's
good
really
one.
cool. Will
Yeah.
we see again? Not to give anything away, but will we see the world tournament in the future?
Um. So here's the fine line that I'm having to try to walk when it comes to doing these what ifs. I have to walk the line of making sure that I don't use ideas in other what ifs. And it's something that is extremely easy to do, and you may not even realize it when you're doing multiple what ifs at the same time. And it's something that I've come to realize more and more. And like I'm doing the what if Ash and Paul traveled to Unova and the what if Ash was born in Unova at the same time. I never should have done two Unova what ifs at the same time because it makes it extremely
Yeah.
hard to do it.
Hmm.
So that type of idea, the world coronation, world tournament, stuff like that, it's definitely something that I've thought about, but I haven't come up with the way of execution that I'm most comfortable with at this current time. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely something that's on the table though. What I can say is though, I I do have basically a thought of how I'm going. Like I have a thought of how I'm going to end the Indigo Champion Ash and how far I'm going to take it. I already know where I'm going to take it to and where it's going to lead to. I don't want to say what I'm doing it with, but I do have it thought out that far. So, so you can definitely be reassured that I'm committed to that what if. I'm committed to all my what ifs, but that what if right there because it was even though it wasn't my first what if, it was the biggest what if that I had.
Yeah.
And I know that this one is the one that a lot of my subscriber base wants to see. So I'm fully aware that this one is the one that draws the most views and stuff like that.
Yeah. For sure. Thank you for doing this, my man. Hope you nothing but the best. Those of you listening, I will link Ronnie's channel in the description. Make sure to go there and subscribe to his channel. And yeah, let's do this again sometime soon, my brother.
Oh yeah, I don't have a problem with it as long as we can set up time. I am
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to do interviews and stuff like that. Maybe we can have a multiple person on next time and we can get a good conversation started. So,
Yeah, for sure.
all
All
right.
right. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. I hope you have a good time and I hope everything works out with your Wi-Fi and everything, okay?
Yeah. All right.
All
Thank you.
right. Appreciate it.